Brandel Chamblee, Golf Channel analyst, joining us on the program. How surprised, if you are surprised, that Brooks Koepka is making some headlines?
It was tough to sort of, as I was trying to make a pick for the week, it was tough to get your arms around how any of the live guys were playing because there's really no data. It's hard to
Hmm.
follow those. There's no game stories written about those events. You try to watch a little bit of it. I did, but the competition, about half that field's not really world class. So it was hard to sort of guess how he was playing. But after about 4 or 5 holes yesterday, it wasn't so hard. Nobody hit their irons better than Brooks Koepka yesterday. Matter of fact, if he'd have made a putt yesterday, he'd had a 4 or 5 shot lead after yesterday's round. And then he's doing the same thing today. He made some nice putts early in his round, but he just, as you just said, he just eagled the eighth to take a 3 shot lead. If he keeps hitting the ball the way he's hitting it right now, he could just run away and hide.
I just talked to Jim Nance. I said, what kind of storyline is the Live Tour? What kind of storyline can it be coming up this weekend? He said, well, it's about the Masters, and it'll probably stay just about the Masters. Now, he's saying that as the host of CBS, but you, not afraid to give an opinion on this, how big a story would that be on Sunday if a Live Tour player is there in the final grouping?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the Masters, it will be about the competition, but the rest of the golf world will definitely be looking at a Live player and a PGA Tour player, and it will certainly pump up the ratings here. I mean, if it's Brooks Koepka coming down with John Rahm, I can't imagine a better scenario from a sports wide concept. The rest of the golf world would be talking about this is a referendum on Live, whether they want to call it that or not. And this is a competition between Live and the PGA Tour. There's just no denying that. I understand, obviously, at Augusta National, they want to keep it about the competition, and that won't come up in the telecast. I mean, if it does, it'll come up softly or peripherally or organically, but they won't dwell on it. But the rest of the golf world will certainly be paying attention to it.
I would say Rory against Koepka would be better than Rahm versus Koepka.
No doubt I would have said Rory, but Rory shot even par yesterday. He's going to have to shoot 64 to get back, 65, 64 to get back in this thing today, because it's not just it's just not that he was 7 back. It's the players that shot the scores in front of Rory.
Yeah.
There's so many good players who played great yesterday, and the course is too soft for many of them to come back.
Well, the weather now plays a role. How big a role is weather going to be?
It's going to get windy. And one of the things I think that's more interesting, Dan, as this week plays out, is that the way the wind is going to come is going to make this golf course play harder than, it's the hardest wind because it's a northeast wind, which means 7 holes that work right to left will have a left to right wind. So you're going to stand on that tee, and if your predominant shot is just a fade, and you're not capable of drawing it into the wind, it's going to be very difficult to hit those tee shots in the fairway, even as soft as it is. So Brooks Koepka primarily plays a fade. So does John Rahm. So, you look at a Scotty Scheffler who hit the ball almost as well as those two guys and didn't make too many putts yesterday. And you figure, he's comfortable working in both directions. So that's when this golf course or this tournament becomes more interesting.
What do you make of Tiger's comments where he was in constant pain yesterday? And we both know that that's not a flat course. And,
Yeah.
You could see where that could have an impact on Tiger. But it almost felt like, he's ready to ride off into the sunset when it comes to playing Augusta.
Yeah, I think Fred Couples, I love Fred. He just nailed it the other day. He was like, yeah, he can hit the shots, but can he get around this place? It's the hardest golf course in the world to walk if you're 25 years old and healthy. Tiger swung as hard as he could off the 8th tee yesterday, and his ball speed was 169. At the Riviera, the Genesis, his tournament earlier in the year, his ball speed was 182.34. So, other players in his group, I'm trying to remember who was in his group, they got their ball speed up to 181 or 182 there. So that to me spoke volumes about the kind of pain that Tiger was in. He was noticeably grimacing and hobbling. And then the shot on 18 that he had yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, but that didn't do him any favors.
Yeah.
One leg in the bunker, his right leg in the bunker, his left leg out. And then after he hit it, all the weight was on his right leg and he hopped on it for a bit. Those are the kind of things that just, flat out will hobble him.
Talking to Brandel Chamblee, the lead analyst with Golf Channel. trying to understand Phil Mickelson's place in golf or the golf world now, where he had a chance to be Arnold Palmer. He had a chance to be the golf ambassador the rest of his career. And then as the story came out, he went to the champions dinner and he didn't say anything, which to me is impossible for Phil to sit there. Did anybody ask him a question? Did he just sit there and eat his meal and not say a word?
When I heard he didn't say a word, I think maybe Phil said that. I thought that's hard to believe, but other people that were in the room said it's true. He just came in there, and I think out of respect, because you've been around Phil, I've been around Phil. I mean, he knows a lot about a lot, and he's happy to share it.
Yes.
And look, he's entertaining. I'll give him that. But I think out of respect for Scotty, and that's a nice gesture by Phil. But to your point, if Phil hadn't gone to Live, if he hadn't been actively recruiting players to Live, and then actively trying to, I would say, undermine the PGA Tour, I'm being kind there. Where was Phil going to go? You're right. He would have ascended to a spot in the booth where he would have been unbelievable. I mean, he'd have been Tony Romo in the booth. He'd have been Barkley in the booth. He would have been so good. And, he'd have made a fortune doing that, and a fortune, everything off that. He would have ascended to Arnold Palmer. He would have been an honorary starter at Augusta National. He would have ridden off into the sunset as one of the great personalities and caretakers of this game. And it's just sad that he's torpedoed that legacy.
I was told he was going to replace Faldo. This is a couple of years ago.
I've got it on. I've heard that. I mean, he was the guy. He had done a little bit. I'm sure you saw him at the PGA Championship in San Francisco, where he got in the booth, and he was terrific. I mean, look, Phil's bright. He's talkative. He's not afraid to share his opinion. He had, I think, pretty good relationships with most everybody. He knows a lot about the golf swing. He could have been the best commentator in the history of golf. And now when you see him, he's a shell of the person that he used to be. But I mean,
if I gave him a do-over, Brandel, a mulligan, what do you think Phil would choose?
I think he'd take it. I really do. I think he'd take it. Let's say it's true that he left for $200 million.
So he would take it and stay on the PGA Tour. He would do it differently.
I think he would. I think he'd stay on the PGA Tour.
Okay.
If he did in fact make $200 million going to Live, it wouldn't take you or I a minute to come up with ways he was going to make $200 million on the PGA Tour, commentating, all of his endorsements. You look at him now, none of those endorsements that he had forever are present. He's just got his team from Live, and that's it, because everybody bailed on him after he talked about the atrocities and said that he could use them as leverage.
Help me understand Rory, because every time I watch him, I go, how does he not win?
You and me both. I think Augusta is not a great fit for him. He's an amazing golfer, and when he's at his best, it's you think, how can anybody beat him? But Augusta has several shots. Matter of fact, there's really only 2 holes out there that don't have these types of shots, where you have if you're a right-handed golfer, a right to left lie that you need to cut it on. So that's a pretty technically difficult thing to do. And to hit that the best way, you've got to be pretty upright with your golf swing, or you have to sort of come over the top of it. Rory's real deep and flat with his golf swing, and he comes underneath it. And when you're coming from the inside and you hit those hills, it shuts your face down. And so if you remember the shot he hit yesterday at 13, he drove it around the corner and he pulled it into the bunker left of the green. He hits more of those shots because he swings deep and comes from the inside than players who swing upright and get on top of the plane. And that's Scotty Scheffler, and that's Tiger Woods, and that's Jordan Spieth, and that's Jack Nicklaus, and Arnold Palmer, and Phil Mickelson, and the rest of them. And so it's just not a great fit for Rory. And having said that, he has played some pretty good golf around here, but he's not played anywhere near as good as he plays week in and week out on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, when Rory goes left, that's when I know there's big trouble there.
Right. And he did it yesterday.
I'll leave you with this. You could have a major at Pebble, you could have Augusta, or you could have the British Open at St. Andrews. To go as a fan,
I would go to Augusta.
Okay.
I've never heard anybody go to Augusta for the Masters come away and say anything other than it exceeded their expectations. Not that those others don't,
Yeah.
but the experience of Augusta is it's a bucket list item for sure.
Have fun today, as always, and play
Thanks,
nice.
Dan.
Play nice. All right. That's
I
Brandel.
will.
Brandel Chamblee, Golf Channel lead studio analyst, Golf Central Live from the Masters, surrounds the Masters tournament. Comprehensive studio coverage there with Rich Lerner. Steve Sands, also one of the hosts, Mike Tirico as well. We'll take a break. Your phone calls are next. We're back after this.